between the release of Tekken 5 and 6 there was another game in the series that was released, and just completely ignoring it would be a massive mistake. Considering this was one of my favourite games, if not my favourite game in the whole series, this was of course Tekken Dark Resurrection. From the outside it was just a port of Tekken 5 to the PSP, but trust me, it was much more than that. Hello and welcome back to the channel. As you can see today we are looking at Tekken Dark Resurrection on the PSP. This isn't the PSP version, I'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, I just want to clarify, this isn't a full review of the game. This is basically me comparing it to Tekken 5. I did the Tekken 5 retrospective last week, so if you haven't seen that already, I'll leave a link down below and to all the other Tekken retrospectives. But yeah, this is just a look back at Tekken Dark Resurrection and comparing it to its console counterpart, I guess. So yeah, that's what this video is. But yeah, most of the footage you are going to see isn't actually on a native PSP console. It's not on a decent emulator on my PC. I wanted to get the portable experience, so I got a PSP emulator on my Retroid Pocket 3 and it worked pretty well, and I've recorded the footage on it, so I wanted to get that real portable experience. And yeah, it might look a bit dodgy, but it's not bad. It's not bad footage, so I hope it's not too jarring and it's watchable. That's the main thing. But yeah, it was recorded on this little bad boy here. So yeah, I thought I'd just let you guys know that first. But yeah, like I said, this isn't a full review of Tekken Dark Resurrection. This is only just a comparison between this and Tekken 5, which again, I've already done a Tekken 5 video if you want to check that out. Link will be down below. But without further ado, let's just get straight in to Tekken Dark Resurrection. In the early 2000s, portable gaming looked a lot different to what it does nowadays, with there only being one option. And in 2001 we saw the release of the Game Boy Advance, which really, and I mean really, tried to port over more titles that stayed true to the original games, like Need for Speed Underground and Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. It even saw the release of its very own Tekken game, and it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't that great either. But in 2005 things were about to change as Sony released their very own portable console known as the PSP. While over at Nintendo, portable games were seen as a more laid back and casual market due to the hardware being quite cheap and it not being too powerful. Even their next portable console, the Nintendo DS, didn't try to be a souped up device that could play home console quality games. But Sony were going to offer just that, with games like Midnight Club 3 and Def Jam Fight for New York getting ports that were almost identical to their console counterparts. It wouldn't be too long before the fighting game franchise synonymous with Sony consoles would see a release on the new handheld, and in September of 2006 we got Tekken Dark Resurrection, which from now on I'm just going to call TDR. I actually remember the day I got this game. I was only 9 and I remember doing what I always do on a weekend, dragging my poor dad to a shop that sold games and begging him to get me a new game. After that I'm pretty sure I had to go to one of those soft play centres for some kid's birthday party, and do you think I set foot in that ball pit for 1 second? Absolutely not. I had some Tekken to play. I can imagine some snotty nosed kid asking me if I wanted to play tag and me just replying like,
"You can if you like, but I won't be there."
Honestly though, this is the main game in the series that sticks out to me because I must have played it so much, considering I could play it anywhere, in bed, in the car, and maybe, sometimes, even at school. I have so many memories of playing not only TDR but the PSP in general, and it definitely deserves its own video one day. So like I said in the intro, I'm only going to talk about the differences between this game and Tekken 5, and there's no better place to start than the game modes. Sadly, the two main modes I talked about in my Tekken 5 video have been removed, these being Devil Within and Arcade History, which is completely understandable due to the hardware limitations and less space to work with on the PSP's UMD disc. Instead, the developers did something that was quite smart. They added 4 new game modes, and altogether that's a whopping 12 game modes compared to Tekken 5's 9. The reason they were able to do this is because most of the new modes are based around the traditional gameplay loop of Tekken, these being Gold Rush, a mode that swaps your opponent's health bar for in-game currency that fills up every time you hit them. All you have to do is make it through the round without getting KO'd and you keep the money. It's a fun little mode, but in all honesty the payoff isn't that great considering how expensive all the customization options are in this game. Another new mode is Command Attack. It's very similar to Training Mode in Tekken 4, but rather than acting as a tutorial, it's been given more of a time attack vibe. Being timed while pulling off all these combos is a great addition and definitely helps you memorise the inputs faster, as seeing the timer at the top of the screen adds a sense of urgency to the whole thing and teaches you to pull them off faster just like you would in a real game. One of the biggest additions to TDR is of course Tekken Dojo. It's almost like its very own campaign. I say almost because there is absolutely no story here whatsoever, but it sees you take on 7 stages of increasing difficulty. Each stage represents a dojo, in which you will try to go from rank 120 to number 1. Doing this by taking on a few opponents in a league match before getting invited to compete in a survival tournament to complete the dojo. This is probably this game's best addition. On the outside it does seem a bit grindy, but thanks to the ranking system and the in-game currency you earn, the sense of progression is definitely there. And then last but not least is the return of Tekken Bowl, which itself has a few different modes to choose from, these being the standard 1-player and 2-player modes, and then tournament and striker modes. There's not much to say about Tekken Bowl, it's exactly what you'd expect it to be, and it is definitely a welcome addition on the PSP version as well, as it's really the only game mode that can be played by multiple people with one PSP. Speaking of multiplayer, there were obviously options to play with friends, even if only one of you had the game, which is a really cool feature, and also some online capabilities as well, but obviously this game's almost 20 years old, so I'm probably not going to have much luck going anywhere near that. All in all, the game modes that were added to this port were a great addition and definitely made up for the ones that were taken out, and made this game even more replayable than its console counterpart. And also, fucking Tekken Bowl!
Great.
When it comes to gameplay, not a lot has changed. If you've played Tekken 5, then you'll have no problem jumping straight into this. If anything, from my own experience with both games, I think TDR feels a bit smoother. The difficulty is still there from Tekken 5, but I think Jinpachi has been nerfed quite a bit. He's no slouch, but still way less aggressive than he was before, and he's also been redesigned. I think maybe due to technical limitations, he couldn't be as detailed, and I much prefer his Tekken 5 design than this. Graphics wise, I was expecting a massive difference between this and Tekken 5, but I was actually impressed with how little has changed between both games. The stages are still quite detailed and the characters still look great as well. The only difference I really noticed was the textures of some of the characters' clothing being a lot less detailed, which isn't that bad at all. I think TDR definitely does a good job of showing just how powerful the PSP was. This game was basically Tekken 5 on the go, completely uncompromised in gameplay and in the way it looked. Okay, so when it comes to characters, TDR brings back the entire cast we saw in Tekken 5, with the addition of Eddie Gordo now getting his own spot on the character select screen rather than just being a palette swap for Christy, which I totally forgot to mention, and also explains why they have the same ending, which is something I definitely didn't critique in my last video. Not only does this game have all characters returning, it also adds 3 new characters, taking the roster up to a massive 35 playable characters, which is insane. These new characters include the returning Armor King, a series legend, who also has the funniest ending in the whole game. All you need to know is King knows that the original Armor King is dead. Why did he have to do him like that? That was completely uncalled for. And while making this video I've realised how much that Ian Wright meme fits into so many Tekken storylines.
You're alive. I'm alive, he said. I can't believe it, someone said you was dead.
Also, we have a newcomer to the series, Sergei Dragunov, who honestly used to creep me out so much as a kid. He doesn't speak and he used to remind me of Michael Jackson, which probably explains why I was terrified of him as a young boy. He's part of the Russian military and has been given the mission of capturing Devil Jin. He is a great addition to the game and a character who's still making appearances to this day. Then last but certainly not least is Lily, who over time has become one of the most iconic characters in the franchise, which is funny considering she was a bonus character on a PSP port. She's the daughter of a rich businessman who finds a love for street fighting, and after her father gets fucked over by the Mishima Zaibatsu, enters the tournament to right the wrongs made by them to her family. She's also one of my favourite characters, although I'm pretty sure me and 9-year-old Dan like her for completely different reasons. Her moveset is great and even to this day a great character to take online due to her very varied move list. And she's slowly overtaking Kazuya as my favourite playable character. Don't be surprised if you start seeing a lot more of Lily gameplay from here on out. So not just new characters added, but a better design and look of the ranking system and more customisation options makes TDR an even bigger upgrade on the already perfect Tekken 5 formula. The stages are probably the biggest change in the game, with all stages being completely new but are very similar to Tekken 5's offerings. All the stages apart from Dragunov's and Lily's stage take place in the same locations as the Tekken 5 ones, but take place at different times of day or different parts of the stage, like the Burning Temple now being changed to a more calming autumn backdrop, Hell's Gate being changed to Heaven's Gate, and one of the more smarter changes coming in the form of Pirate's Cove being changed to take place on the actual ship you see in the background, probably due to technical limitations. I for one actually prefer most of the Dark Resurrection stages to the Tekken 5 ones. There's maybe one or two stages that Tekken 5 does better, mainly Moonlight Wilderness, but I think personally the stages in TDR just have a bit more personality to them. Like the Bowling Alley Roof stage for example, it just looks so much better in the dark with all the lights in the background, and Acid Rain's counterpart, Festival, being a lot more vibrant. And here are some of my favourites. My favourite stage has to be the Winter Palace, and I think that's ultimately down to the music, which by the way, the soundtrack of this game is probably one of the best in the series and way better than Tekken 5's in my opinion. But Winter Palace just has such an epic feel to it. It's the place where you'll come across Devil Jin in the story mode, and it definitely feels like a massive fight in the game, and I think that's ultimately down to the stage and music. So yeah, in my personal opinion, I think TDR does stages and music a lot better than Tekken 5 does. Another thing that this tiny little portable console port has over the fully fledged console release. One more thing I want to talk about is the PS3 version, titled Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection Online. Not to be confused with Tekken 5 on the PS2 or Tekken Dark Resurrection on the PSP, the PS3 version is the most disappointing game in the series, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. It was essentially an online arcade version of TDR, but with updated HD graphics. It could have been the definitive edition of the game, but sadly a lot of things were taken out and it was just used as a way to play online on the PS3 and later on a way to play arcade mode. It's still a nice little piece of Tekken history to own, considering it was download only, and will probably soon be no longer available to purchase. So what was essentially a less powerful port of Tekken 5 to smaller hardware became probably one of my favourite games of all time. With barely any sacrifice made in terms of presentation and gameplay, a plethora of new modes and the introduction of some new characters, Tekken Dark Resurrection truly was the definitive Tekken 5 experience, and it was only available on a little device known as the PSP. But yeah, that is it for Tekken Dark Resurrection. I would put it in the tier list, but I would be very biased because it is one of my favourite games of all time. It would have its own tier above S called just Tekken Dark Resurrection. It'd be right at the top by itself. So I'm not actually going to put it in the tier list. I'm going to save that for like console main games in the series, whereas this is just sort of like an expansion on Tekken 5, I guess. It's not really its own entry, so I'm not going to put it in the tier list. But I thought I'd need to look back at it because I need to show it its respect. It deserved the respect. So I had to show it some in this video, if that sentence made any sense. But yeah, I really wanted to look back at Tekken Dark Resurrection. But of course, Tekken 6 will be next up. I'm glad I didn't do it this week because I've been quite lazy. Thankfully this video is a bit shorter, so it's not took as much work as a normal Tekken retrospective video would. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be back on the grind on Monday morning. I'm going to be working on that Tekken 6 video. The support on the Tekken 5 video has been massive again. Thank you to everyone who's liked the video, commented, subscribed, just watched it. Thank you so much. The support means a lot and it definitely motivates me to keep making videos, which yeah, Tekken 6 will be out very soon, so I guess I'll see you then. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.